Are you an Ecamm user or you're Ecamm curious? Well, the new 3.9 features were just released and I am so excited. And I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but these updates honestly are so incredible, especially for people who don't necessarily want to go and spend a lot of time creating graphics or making things really fancy. There are very simple changes that we are going to talk about today that make your production look incredible. And some of the things that have been on my wish list, and I had to give credit to OBS and say, well, this is where OBS has it over Ecamm. No more. We've got some amazing updates. So that is what we are going to talk about today. There are so many updates. I actually won't be able to cover them all, but I'm going to cover as many as I can fit into this session. And I can't wait to get into this. Now, before we do, anyone who doesn't recognize me, if you have never met me before, my name is Kat, and I help people to create more professional and engaging online presentations. Did I? Oh, yeah, I definitely. This is what I was going for. I accidentally added a new scene. That's what I help people do. Today's maybe not one of those days, we will see, but I'm just so excited about this update. And I know why I just made that mistake. It's because I was preparing to have a scene ready to go so that we could start jumping into this right away. You are going to see some demo mode, meaning you are going to see my screen. I'm going to be sharing exactly what this looks like. There are some limitations because we are currently live using Ecamm. However, you are still going to see a lot of what we are doing today. So let's hop into demo mode, which is where you can see my desktop, which is running Ecamm Live right now. I do have a few things on my other screen. For example, the comments I have are on the other screen, so that there's not a distraction. And also the big error warning telling me about my current resolution being too much, that's also on the other screen. So right now I am just on a plain scene here, and we are going to look around at what is new. The first thing I want to share for the update is that you can now have different profiles. So if we go up to the menu here, you will see profile. If we click on profile, you are able to create multiple profiles. An example here is that, and now I can't change it while I'm live, but I created a new one that's called workshops, where I can store my specific workshops that I am running, which might be different than live stream, which is different than recorded video. You can also duplicate your current profile. I decided to do this, so I have a copy of my original. And that's a really nice way for me to create these new profiles, duplicate, and then I can just delete all the stuff that I don't want in that profile. It does take a little bit of time, so give yourself some time if you have a lot of scenes already in Ecamm and you want to convert those over, but that is a great way. All you have to do to create a new one is say new blank profile, name it, and then get that started. There's also an option to export your current profile, so you could use this on another computer, or you could export this and give those scenes to someone else. So that is the first update, but let's kind of dig into some of the most exciting stuff, which is the overlay changes. This is where I get giddy. So under the overlays, you're going to see my overlays window is down here in the corner. And there are a couple of new additions. So one of the first things that you'll see is there's this here. This overlay is to add a screen share. We're going to get to that. And you can see some of the other ones, like the camera overlay, adding widget, a timer, the static overlay, animated. That's great, but there are some changes. So let's say that we want to, I'm going to actually change this scene. So I'm going to go to scene and then, or source. Apologies. I'm going to turn this to blank. So instead of showing my camera, I actually just want this to start off blank. The reason I am doing this is because I want to add my camera overlay. So let's go down to overlays, click on this little camera, and now we have a camera. You can already, or we've got an overlay. So now we have to pick my camera. Oop, let's move that over so we can see that. And when you click on this pencil, you are going to see a few more edit options. And right now, this is my second camera. It's not currently turned on, but I do have my Camlink 4K. So that is my current camera that I am using. This is my Sony ZV-1. And you will see at the moment that I actually have corners on this. So you can drag this to have no corners at all, to be completely square, or I can start to curve this. And so this is rounded corners on a wide square, but I can also change to other shapes. If I want to go to a square shape, I can do that. If I want to go to the circle shape. Now this is a new one, and this is the squircle, which is fun to say. Now this squircle, this is not the same as a square with rounded corners. This actually, the shape is a little different. And if we exaggerate, you can start to see it a little more. This actually reminds me of Clubhouse, because I know some people were trying to make Clubhouse shapes and realized it wasn't actually just a box with rounded corners. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, if this is not the Clubhouse shape, but you can play around with how much you want this to exaggerate. And then this border, which you see, so I was clearly playing around with this before and added a border. You can actually make that disappear. You do not need to have a border, but you can increase the border and you can really start to exaggerate with that. You can also change the color. So if I want to click on this, let's bring this color palette over here. I can use the picker, and maybe I say, actually, I really like this. Let's do this blue on my desktop. I can do that. That's really subtle on here. So I'm going to just go back to white because I want to show you another thing. But actually, let's go back to wide, because a really exciting addition is cropping. And this is something that OBS had over Ecamm, and that is no longer a thing. So if we have our whatever shape we have, and you go to the side, if you just do this now, it will just resize it. But let's say I want to crop this in. Maybe I don't want to see the clock. Everybody asks about the clock. Maybe I want to crop that out. I just hold down the Option key, drag it in, and like magic, we can just crop this to make the exact shape that we want. And yes, this also works on your screen share overlay, which we will see in a second. How exciting is this? You can crop. I love it. Okay, so now let's move me over and let's add some text. And what I'm doing right now is sort of starting to put together a scene without going into Canva or Keynote or PowerPoint and trying to make fancy backgrounds or overlays. We're just going to start creating them. So let's create a text box. And so my text overlay, here we go. And I'll move the colors over. So let's say I want my name. So we'll do Cat Mulvihill. And you can see I have a border, and I can kind of adjust and play around with the size of this border. So just like the overlays, you can have no border, and you can also turn off the background. If I just wanted text, I could do that. But if I want background and a slight border, I can do this. And with the color, so over here, maybe I do want to pick one of these. Here, let's pick this color. Oh, did that work? Oh, it's my background. Click on the background, and then you can go, I'm just going to use this color picker on my background. So that's similar to my brand color. Again, you can play with the margins. So the margins is how much space is around your text. And then you can also play around with these corners. And you can also turn on and off certain corners. And we'll talk about that more in a second. So we're going to add this. So now I have my name. And what I can do is actually just bring this up here. And let's actually edit one more time, make this border a little bit thicker, save that. So you can see how I now have created this border around my frame, and I've got my name, and I created a little border, and it actually looks like it all fits together. You can play around with this too, get creative. It doesn't have to be centered. You could have it a little bit off to the side and start to create these overlays. Then maybe if I'm going to have a guest, I can just, if you aren't aware of this trick, to duplicate, you can actually hold down Option and drag and create another window. So maybe I'm going to have a guest. I can just duplicate these. Yeah, I'll do the same size. And maybe this is my guest. And I don't actually have a guest right now, but we'll say guest 1, and we can save that. And if I do have my interview turned on, I can actually assign, so we're going to move this over. The guest name might be longer. And I can set this up even before my guest arrives and have this ready to go for my guest. But maybe you're thinking the background of this doesn't look that great. So let's actually add a background. So what I have done is I actually have some static backgrounds that I got ready today. So let's take a look. I just grabbed a bunch from Canva. So this is a tip. If you go into Canva, you can just look for background, and that's a great way. Background and then images. Let's get that done. And so I've got a bunch. So let's see. I think this one looks kind of cool. Let's try it. These colors might not match. Actually, I'm going to drag this into background here. Show in background. So here's this one. Oh, that color doesn't really match. Let's get rid of that one. Let's do a fun pop with some purple. I'm going to drag this one into the background. There we go. That's kind of fun. The colors are not great, but we're not going to get, well, actually, let's change them. So let's go into the name, and where's my text? We're going to edit the text, and I am going to pick the purple at the top. So let's click on the background, look on this little color picker here on this color chart, and then I'll pick the purple and select that just as a way to stop my brain from being bothered by this. And I know we have at least one incredible designer person, Paul Dixon at least was here, and he might be cringing as I create this. Okay, so we've got a couple of these set up. The other thing you can do, which is just absolutely incredible, is you can actually group these together so that you can move your overlays together, which is incredible. So first, I am actually going to lock this background. So I go to my overlays windows, I click on that little lock so that the background is locked. And now you'll see in this overlays window, there's a folder. So let's click on this folder. And so we have a group. So we are actually going to create a new group. You can name it if you want. What I'm going to do is drag my name into that group, and I'm going to drag my cam link into this group. And then you see this little lock feature. We're going to lock these together. So now if I grab this, my name and my picture are dragged together. And then we can do the same thing with the other one. So this will be, oh, no, I don't want that. There, we want the group. So this, I guess we could call this guest. And we're going to have the guest camera, and we're going to have the guest name, and we're going to lock those. So now we can actually have this dragged around so we can position exactly where we want those to go. So you can be setting this up. Now, the sizing does not seem to happen together. So that's something that you should know about. And so if I were to just say, I want this to be, if I was bringing this over a little closer to the middle, wanted to size this up, you can see that my photo gets bigger, or the camera gets bigger, but the actual name stays the same. But you can play around with these, but they're still grouped together. And if I tried to move the name, I'm actually going to move the name. So let's move these to the middle. So I can just unlink, and then I can drag this over. So maybe I want to have this positioned here, and I can then relink that, and then I can unlink the guest, move the guest name over to the middle, and then relink that there. So that's how you can link these things together. So what you can see is that I have taken one simple background image. I didn't have to make any transparent backgrounds. I didn't have to make anything else like that. And somehow that worked. Now I just want to confirm if I am still live, because I am a little nervous. So I'm going to just take a little pause for a second to just check to see if this resolution is actually a problem. And let's do a little quick something, which is me muting. Thank you for indulging me. I was like, oh gosh, I'm getting nervous. I was getting a little message, but I am seeing from you. Everything is fine. I can finally try to use that feature where I cut out something in the middle of a YouTube video. I don't know if you saw panic come over my face. It's alive, and it's still live. So, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for confirming that. I got a little nervous. So now we have an example where we have pulled in this background and then we have created these overlays, but let's do some other things. And one that I'm really excited about is showing you this screen share overlay. So let's actually remove this. So I'm just going to X this out and X this, and let's make my window a little bit smaller. We could even crop this using this new crop. So the option. And if I wanted over here in the camera effects, I could zoom myself out a little bit more and could kind of adjust this camera. So I've really simply made that change. Now these are still grouped together. So let's unclick this and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. So we could have my name here, or we could even get rid of it. But yeah, actually let's just hide that for now. So we're going to hide the text. Let's add an overlay. So we've got our background. Let's try this new one here, which is the overlay. And so this is a screen share overlay. We are going to go on the pencil. Actually, let's move it over so you can see it better. And now we are going to choose, what are we going to show? Right now it's on my primary display, but you can actually choose a very specific application. So I'm going to go over to Keynote and show a studio setup. So this is something that I did a video on the other day. Just like the other ones, you can see that we have now the corner radius, so we can play around with that. You can have a border or no border, so it's up to you what you want. And you also can zoom the app to the windows, or you can uncheck this and then it's not, so I recommend zooming this in. You can activate audio capture, and there's also the green screen key, so it'll key out the background, but it does also key out green. So you want to be careful with this, but we're going to come back to the green screen. So instead of the key out or keying that out, what I'm going to do is actually crop. So in a second, we'll make it a little bit bigger, but first I want to show you this corner radius because I haven't shown you that yet. So what this means is that if you have some rounded corners, you can actually choose if you want some of them to not be rounded. So let's say I click on this corner. Now all of a sudden this one is square, but the other three are rounded. So let's keep it that way with one rounded corner. I'm going to bring this up kind of closer to me, and let's click on mine. And we are going to kind of have them maybe meet. So now I've got the two together. You could do it for both if you wanted to, or just do the one corner. And then you can drag this bigger, and let's crop the sides of this so I'm not having my background show up. So I'm going to hold down Option, crop this in, crop the top, crop the bottom and the side. And here, let's say you have a menu bar and you're sharing a browser and you don't want everyone to see that. All you have to do is just crop out the part you don't want so you can focus on the part that you do want. And then we can try and line these puppies up and then make this bigger. So I have now just created an overlay where I have myself and we've got my screen share. And this is active. So if I go to this page and I'm running through this page, I can go through and do that. And this is no overlay necessary. You didn't have to go into some program. You didn't have to download overlays. This is all set up just by adding a background. Let's actually create a new scene because I also want to show you one other thing about the background. So I'm going to say new scene, and it's starting out with a black background. And yes, I completely agree. It's so much better for window capture. And so if you were playing, actually, let's go back to my main camera for a second and get out of demo mode. Let's say that you are playing your PowerPoint in a window. Before, one of the things that really bothered me is you would have the taskbar or whatever you call that at the top. Now you can crop that out. So you can play a PowerPoint in a window, play Keynote in a window, or anything that you have, you can easily crop out whatever you don't want to show. And this is an excellent update. So we've got a new scene. Let's go to our demo mode. And what I also have ready today are actually some video backgrounds. So I have a lot open. So let's open up this window here. And we are going to, so what I did in Canva as well is I just downloaded some videos. So I have sort of a blue ovals, some bubbles, diagonal boxes. So let's do the diagonal boxes. And we're actually, I guess, so diagonal boxes, are they showing up? Oh wait, is that because it's a video? let's try. What did I just do? All right. What is, oh, you know what? It's because I think this scene, let's go here and go to the source. It was actually on the wrong camera. Here we go. So now, apologies. Okay, let's do that one more time. If we hide this and now it's actually a blank scene, before it was just on a camera that is not on. Now we have this diagonal boxes, which is a video file. So now I've created this animated background, which before was something that I wanted to be able to do, but I found really difficult because it's hard to crop out of a video. But now what we can do is recreate the same thing. So maybe I want to have this background going, or let's actually try one of the other ones. I think this bubbles one might look nice. So that's kind of cool. So these are just really short looping video files, and I've got it in the background as an animated overlay. So let's add my camera, and we've got, it remembers your last things. Now that loop is not the best, so maybe I would find one that loops better. I'm going to take my cam link, which is my main camera. I am clearly very zoomed in right now. So let's do a little, you got a little sneak peek at some of my lighting here. And we can turn off this corner. We could choose whatever we want. So we've got this width here, and then I can just, maybe I want to make this a scene. And if I wanted to keep some room at the bottom for some text, I can do that. I can even just kind of crop a little bit, crop at the top until I get it where I want. Put this at the top. And now we've got this scene. We've got some visual background. I'm not sure I would pick this one. Let's actually turn this off, turn this one back on. This is a little bit easier on the eyes. There aren't those light flares. But then we still have this bottom so that if we wanted to show something, like maybe I want to show a comment, then I have some room for that comment. And you can also see that that comment raises up. So let's actually take a look at the comment. So here we've got this comment here. When we click the little tag, this is how we can edit a comment. So the background color, you can just use the color picker if you want to. You can add whether or not you want the rounded corners, same thing. You could change these. Maybe we could try changing this. You can decide to have a border or not. I did decide I wanted to have a border. Because I have a semi-transparent background, I like having that. And you can then also, the style, this is what I changed before we started today, is you can actually decide, do I want it to fly in from the bottom? Maybe I want it to fly in from the top, from the left, from the right. Let's try a different one. Let's have it fly in from the left and click save. And now when it goes away, it'll also go out the way that it came in. So then if I talk about, or let's say I show another one. So we've got this comment from David. And so this flies in from the side. And as before, you can kind of edit where you want this to sit. But even here, I could just kind of move my overlay up a little bit if I want some more room. And then if we toggle that, it goes off that way. So that is how you edit the comments, which is really exciting. The other thing you can do, so let's go back to this idea of the green screen. I'm going to move this out of the way. So with this green screen share, you have the option to add an overlay, and if it's got a green background, you can key that out, and whatever is left is ready to go. So what I have done, which you may have already guessed this, is I put together this little Keynote slideshow. You could do this with PowerPoint as well. So I know that Ecamm is sort of covering part of this. We can make this a little smaller. I have created this little green slide, and we are going to play this in a window, which if you click that, so this is the Keynote menu. I click play in window. So now we should see a Keynote playing in the window, but my desktop is so hectic that I can't. Wait, okay, hold on. Let's try this again. We're going to say play in window and then play. Okay, here we go. So now I've got this green screen. I'm going to move this out of the way, but you saw the green screen. And you can also see here, these are my controls. So I've got these two slides set up so I can see which slide. I'm going to move that out of the way as well. And now what we are going to do is use the overlay. So let's go to this down in the overlay window. I'm going to click add. We've got this screen share. Let's make some edits. So first we want to make sure, here, let's move this over so you can see this better. We are going to choose Keynote, and we want the presenter, no, we want the untitled because I didn't name it. Here we have the presentation. I do not want a border on this. And let's also remove the corners, and we're going to crop this. So I'm going to hold down Option. I'm going to crop it, probably, let's make this a little bigger. We're going to crop all the edges here so that we just have the green. Here we go. And now we are going to actually stretch this over the entire slide. And when we click this little guy, we're going to say green screen. So now this is over top of us. And when I go to my presenter slides and I do the presentation and I kind of click what's the next thing, I have an animation, which is actually a little fuzzy. So I would work on this. But you can see that I have a green slide with this text. And then if I go to the next slide, you can see the animation. So this will need a little work with the resolution at which it's playing, but you get the idea. You can add an overlay with some text. And if we take a look again at the actual PowerPoint or the slide, this Keynote slideshow, I have the words Keynote or PowerPoint at the bottom of this. And when you take a look at my demonstration, and let's take a look at this bigger. If I get out of demo mode, oh, let's go over here. If I leave demo mode, there we go. So this is what it would look like here. And if we go back to that first slide, oh, it accidentally left. You know what? We're just going to leave that one alone. I will do a separate video on that and make sure that everything is clear. So now we've covered all of this really exciting overlay stuff. Let's actually X this. We're going to get rid of that screen share. So I'll go back into demo mode. So I just hid that. And also I recommend don't have this many overlays in a session. I would actually start to remove some of these. And if you had a guest, we could do something similar where maybe let's say when I want that visual background, we could just change the shape and do custom. I really like custom because it's whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to zoom myself out a little bit here. And let's say I was having a guest, I can just create my guest window. I can kind of drag and drop over here, and I can then change this and I could have my interview guest. You can set up your guest 1, guest 2, guest 3, etc. So it is really simple to create these scenes, and all you have to do is just bring a background in. Okay, what else? So now let's talk about interview, because there are some changes to the interview feature. So this is the interview window. One of the first things I want to show you is the ability to change the link. So if we click on this, you will actually see right now I've just got my Ecamm Live interview, and I can say new interview settings. This allows me to change the title. So if I invite a guest, when this guest comes on, they will see the page title. So I could actually name this on my show, like depending on what you're inviting them for. You can also drag and drop a logo that will show up on your interview page where the guest will join. And you can also do 2 different ones for dark or light if your logo is slightly different depending on the background. You also have the ability to have an open graph image, which means when you're sharing a link with somebody, you know how there's always a picture preview and sometimes they don't look so great. You can actually customize, and they have the recommended shape of sharing that. And here, this is really exciting. For the guest link, you can actually choose a different link. Right now, when you share with a guest, it's guest.ecamm.live, which may not mean anything to your guest, and maybe you don't want that to show up. So instead, you can choose from one of these other ones, like liveguest.chat, ourshow.live, or readytojoin.live. You can see all the different examples that you can use that will change the domain for inviting your guest. You can also change some of these different options, like allowing for a private chat, which I'll show you in a moment. the viewer count and the viewer comments. So maybe it makes sense that the guest doesn't see the viewer comments for whatever reason. You can turn that off. You can also default to dark mode, which is nice for not having light reflect off of a person's face. And here you can change the audio processing, but you have to read the warning when it comes to that. So now you can create your different interview link. Let's take a look at the chat. So under window here, you can see now interview chat is an option. And I think it opened on my other window. Where did it go? Where? Of course it disappeared. Anyone? I don't know where it went. You can chat with your interview guest directly. So I wish I could find it. Hold on. Let's do a really quick look. I'm going to minimize a few of these windows that I have open. I also have a guess. This is my guess. When I am streaming live, I like to have an output of the video monitor, and I have this to my teleprompter. So I can see right in front of me exactly what you are seeing. This is handy. However, sometimes it blocks things. So I'm going to turn off this monitor. Yep, there it is. There's the interview chat. It was on my teleprompter monitor behind my output. So I'm going to turn that back on so I can see the stream. But let's see, this is the interview chat. So this enables you to chat with somebody. And what they will see is if you have enabled them to see the live chat, they will see that, but then there's a little tab. So they can switch between seeing the live comments, or they can also see the interview chat. This is a fantastic way for you to send a quick note to someone, especially maybe you're on camera and you're not talking, or you have more than one guest and you can say something. You can send a message to your guest this way, which is an excellent addition. And I'm very excited for this for the next time that I actually have a guest on the show. Okay, so let's now, let's go over camera. So there is one other thing that I want to show you, and then we'll wrap up these new features, or at least the highlights, because there are more. And let's just make this a little simpler. We are going to change the size of this window here because I can, and we are going to look at the camera effects. So to the side, there are a few changes to the camera effects. So if you look down here, there is now an option to rotate your camera. And a lot of people would say, well, why do I need to rotate my camera? Well, this is because allegedly, according to Ecamm, some people do have their camera mounted sideways. So this is a way that you can rotate your camera. The sideways actually does make a lot of sense if you are filming a lot of vertical video. So whether that's shorts, TikTok, Reels, etc., a lot of video nowadays is vertical. So this would allow you to have your camera set up that way, and then you could easily rotate that. And then the other one I want to call your attention to is apply to all scenes. Let's say I look at this and I think this is actually kind of wide. I want to be tighter in the shot, or maybe I'm really zoomed in and I want to zoom out. Well, then what you are doing is you're applying changes across all of your scenes. So if I make some adjustments to my camera, maybe I want to change the different settings. If I click apply to all scenes, then it will actually do that for every single one. I personally would not do this because sometimes, depending on the scene, I actually want my camera to be zoomed in or zoomed out, depending on the shot. But for some people, and something I talk about is you don't want to necessarily be moving around. If I go to my next scene or next shot, if I go here, I don't necessarily want to go to my next scene, maybe my title slide, and then have me in a different position. So it can be really helpful for you to figure out where you want everything to sit. So that is an overview of all the things that I wanted to share. There are more little things that have been added to Ecamm Live 3.9. I am so excited for those of you who already have Ecamm. Hopefully you have already installed it and you're playing around with it. And if you've been on the fence, this might be the time to go for it and to add Ecamm into one of your tools for your toolkit. It is absolutely fantastic, and I hope you are as excited as I am. You can make a nice professional scene really without designing a single thing. Just drag and drop a background and start playing around with these overlays, the screen share, the cropping. It's all absolutely amazing, and it will help you to create a more professional and engaging online presentation.